Hello Nation, and welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander Cheapskate, and we are back with another episode of Back to the Primitive. This is our limited series that is dedicated to the building, painting, and designing of our studio's 3,000 Point Lizardmen Army. And as you can see, we have made some substantial progress in our army. So as you can see here, we have looks like about 40 units fully completed. A lot of work has been put into this army. It's been a while since I was able to paint up some miniatures for the Lizards of Waz. I actually had a pretty hectic time of it. I haven't been able to get the painting table as much as I'd like. So because of that, haven't made a lot of progress so far. But so far, it looks absolutely amazing, as you can see. We are pretty much done with the core requirements for this army as well. So the core requirements are fully completed. And so now we're moving on to the special, as well as rare choices, as well as some of the Lord and Hero choices that we actually have for this army. Now, the first thing you might notice about this army is that this army actually has quite a bit of orcs and goblins in it. And in case you're tuning in for the very first time into this series, this army is known as the Lizards of Waz, as the name of the army, with Wa with a Z at the end of it. And the reason why is because it is a combination of orcs and goblins, as well as lizardmen. And let's go and talk about that real quick. So the reason why this is the case is because I had a lot of spare goblin miniatures that I've collected over the years. And I've also had a bunch of Blown Splitter miniatures as well. And the reason why is because back when my studio was still playing Warhammer Age of Sigmar, we actually had a pretty significant Bone Splitter army that we were actually building on the channel. And originally this series, Back to the Primitive, was originally designed to be that series helping us build up that Bone Splitter army and showcasing the work that we've done so far. The problem though is that we decided not to pursue any more Warhammer Age of Sigmar content just because we want to focus more on Necromunda as well as Warhammer Fantasy Battle. So because of that, these Bone Splitter minis were for the most part were just sitting on a shelf collecting dust for the most part. So, as me, I want to figure out to use something. I just want to just hang around our studio. I decided that we should build an orc and take the orcs that we have as well as some leftover goblin miniatures that we have and build a lizardman army out of it instead. And the reason why is because lizardmen are very similar in their composition to orcs and goblins in the sense that you have like little skinks, like these little guys here, which are basically like goblins. And then you have Saurus warriors, like these guys here in the front, these blue guys, who are basically kind of like orcs. So because that's very easy just to kind of combine the two, because on terms of scale, they're kind of built very similarly. So that's pretty much how we went with this one. The narrative behind this army is that the Lizards of Waz consists of a dying city-state of lizardmen who are slowly going extinct through just time and tide and consequence. And a fleet of orcs crash-landed off the coast of Lustria. And the survivors of those shipwrecks journeyed their way inland, and when they did, they actually met up with the lizardmen, and they were impressed by the way the lizardmen had built their cities, as well as the dinosaur creatures that they basically commanded and controlled. So they basically converted over to join up with the lizardmen and to form an alliance to make this army known as the Lizards of Waz. So this is the most cobbled together, one of the most cobbled together armies that we have on this studio, which is perfectly fine with me because I really don't care. I think it looks actually kind of cool. So let's go ahead and talk about the army real quick. So as you can guess from the name, the Lizards of Waz, we actually have, it's kind of like we have some like joke names for these guys. This army is not as narratively as serious as other armies that we have in our studios. So for example, we have this huge unit here. It's a horde formation of, I believe it's 34. Yeah, I think it's 34 skinks. No, not 34. I'm sorry. It's, let's see, 12. So what, that's 8. That's 28. No, sorry, not 28. 22? 24. I forgot how many skinks there are. But anyways, the idea behind it is that we have a horde formation of skinks. As you can see, we have some night goblins intermixed with skink warriors. We got 3 Coxagore that are inside this unit as well. These Coxagore are actually being proxied by 3 40mm bases, 1 with a troll, and 2 with Savage Orc warriors on each one to represent their Coxagore. We have a skink priest. This unit here is called House Slytherin, is what it's called. See what I mean about the names. We just got done completing these guys up. These are one of the new additions that we made. We have this huge honking unit of 40 Saurus warriors called the Saurus, kind of like the book. This formation right now is 8 wide by 5 deep. And these guys are Saurus warriors armed with spears. and they're just made up completely of bone splitter miniatures. As you can see, the colors are super bright and super vibrant as well. Then we have the Guacamole Guards, which are these guys here. It's a unit of 36 Temple Guard, made with some more bone splitters as well as some Saurus Warriors as well. And as you can see, we have our Slan. This is Kermit the Slan. This is our mage priest that we have for the army. As you can see, it's a homemade miniature. I just basically took some popsicle sticks to make a pelican of some sort. I took some extra bits of sprue to make a platform, as well as a frog miniature that came with one of the kits that I bought for the lizardmen that I bought secondhand, and put them on the little pedestal. This little frog has all the secrets and knowledge in the universe. I put some standards, some what you call it, some lizardmen standard bearers there on the back of it. And the carrying it are 4 converted Saurus Warriors that I made using bone splitter bodies with Saurus heads. And the reason why I did that is because this pelican look being carried by Saurus Warriors actually harkens back to the days of Warhammer 4th edition when Lizardmen first came out. And the reason was because the original model actually had a Slan guy being carried around on a palanquin by 4 Temple Guard. So I decided to go back with that original look and decided to do that instead. So that's Kermit the Slan, who's also the general, or it could be the general of our army as well, with his guardians, the Guacamole Guards. And then lastly, we have the Comrade Chameleons, which is another horde formation of 40 skinks with 3 Croxagore. And the 3 Croxagore in this case are being proxied by these 3 big stabbers that we have in the army as well. And then of course we got Night Goblins and Goblin miniatures spread throughout to be proxying as skinks. As you can see, like the skink shields, I had some skink shields, I threw those onto these Goblin Warriors to make them look a little bit more converted over. We got some brightly colored Night Goblins as well. Lots of gold and teal in this army. One of the things I love about this army is that the army is very bright and vibrant in terms of its color usage. And the reason why is because there's very few armies in Warhammer Fantasy that you can actually have this really bright colored look on it. Most of them are human armies like Bretonnians and Empire, maybe Dogs of War if you go with that direction, and Lizardmen. And the nice thing about that is that because I use primarily bone splitters in this army, I went with this really bright colored war paint design. As you can see, with lots of yellows, blues, magentas, purples, whites, and oranges. I use that a lot for their war paint. It came out looking very, very bright, vibrant and bright. Combine that with the gold and the teal color of most of the lizardmen, and you got this really awesome, vibrant look going on. So if you guys have been following our series, the progress we made so far was on the Guacamole Guards, as well as the Thesaurus, and same thing with the big stabbers in the back. Now, if you're wondering about these 3 big stabbers, they're actually going to be part of a much larger unit of Saurus Cav. I'm going to have a couple of Saurus Cav I'm going to use with these guys, and they're going to be acting as unit fillers, as also as members of the Saurus Cav as well. So that's what I'll be putting those 3 guys into, so that'll be really cool. And the new additions that we made are House Slytherin, these 40 Skink Warriors. So you can see we got Night Goblins in this unit as well. And of course we just showed these guys over here, the Comrade Chameleons. So those are the new additions that we added to this army. Like I said, I got all my core requirements finished out. I got 2 units of Skinks, 1 huge unit of Saurus Warriors. So those guys are done. I'm starting to work on my special choices now, which is this unit of Temple Guard. And like I said before, I have some working on next. The next unit I'm planning on working on are some Saurus Cav, as well as some working onto our larger dinosaurs like Pterodons, as well as Bastillodons, and a Carnosaur as well, because those things are beast. So we'll be working on those next, and I'll show you that progress here in a second. So you can see we got some bright colors for these goblins. In order to help kind of tie them together, as you notice, I got some turquoise colored on the tufts of their spears. I did that to build unit coherency a little bit, so that way it kind of tricks the mind's eye, the eye a little bit. So you got these teal color that make up the lizardmen, the skinks for example. So by putting those turquoise tufts on the spears, it helped kind of blends in with the skinks. So that way you can tell that there is some coherency with the unit as well. So that way it looks really, really awesome. That troll is actually from the Battle of Skull Pass. That's where that troll came from. And these guys are just some spare bone splitters that I put on 40mm bases. That way they can act as Croxagore. So these guys came out really, really nice. Really satisfied so far with the way that the army is turning out. So a lot of work going into this army. The only problem was that I just haven't had the time to actually just sit down and paint these things. Busy with work and all that stuff. Real life gets in the way sometimes, but that's perfectly fine. That's why these armies are so nice, because you can go home and distress from work and work on these instead, which looks awesome. All right, so that's the current progress we made so far. So now that we're done talking about the current progress, next up we're going to talk about our future plans. So I'm going to stop the video real quick, get those minis out, and talk about what's coming up next. Okay, so now we're back on my painting table. As you can see here, we actually have the next unit I plan on working on next. And the unit I plan on working on next are these guys here. These guys are called the Jurassic Jousters. I have 8 Saurus Cav that I will need to paint up as well. So these Saurus Cav I bought secondhand. Actually, I bought all my Lizardman miniatures secondhand from my local gaming store. I was able to get those miniatures for a pretty good price. I got them for about $50-something, almost close to 60 bucks. It was easily $200-something worth of miniatures, but I was able to get it for a really cheap price. And the reason why is because, one, they were secondhand, and two, a lot of them were not fully completed. Like if you look at this unit here, these guys have a combination of hand weapons as well as spears. And the reason why is because the guy who had these didn't actually like put them together for one unit all together. He kind of like mixed and matched it. That was one of the reasons why I was able to get it for so low. Plus he had some pieces that were missing from it, so that always helps. So as you can see here, this part looks really, really awesome. So these guys look really good. I'm really looking forward to painting these guys up. Now, the only problem I have to worry about is that these guys are cavalry miniatures. And the reason why that is the case is because cavalry miniatures, whether you're aware of them or not, actually count as 2 miniatures. So it's not really a unit of 8. I'm really painting 16 miniatures is actually what I'm doing. And the reason why is because you got to paint both the steed as well as the rider as well. So that part's going to be kind of crazy. But like I said, though, I am really looking forward to painting this unit up. It's made up of, I'm kind of going with the idea of sticking with that same teal color for the Lizardmen, so I'm going to go with that. I'm probably going to stick with the classic blue and green look of these miniatures. Green on the cold ones with blue for the riders. And for the shields, I'm planning on making those kind of like a bright orange color to kind of match up with the scaled shields that my Night Goblins use to kind of build some army coherency on that one. So I'm looking forward to that as well. And these guys are going to look really awesome with that Badlands base that I did in the other ones. So that way it has like this really cool kind of contrasting color between the flesh of the Lizardmen and the bases. Now it's only 8 riders, but I plan on using those big staff as I showed you guys in the, previously. Those guys will be used as unit fillers to actually make this into an even 10 riders for the Jurassic Jousters. So I'm really looking forward to that. After I get done with these guys, I can then start moving on to the rest of the dinosaur units as well. I have a Bastillodon with a solar engine on the back of it that I'm going to call the Bulbasaur. I got that I got to work on, as well as a unit of 3 Pterodons with Fire Leech Bolas. Those guys are the Charizards, so I got to work on those guys as well. And then of course I have my General, my Scarvet on a Carnosaur. That's Powerade and Gatorade. So I got to work on those guys as well. And then lastly I have a Troglodon that I used using the leftover sprue from the Carnosaur kit. And it's the classic Troglodon coming out of like a swamp type of look. So I got to work on that next. And then this army will be fully completed. Now, granted, with all the stuff I'm adding to it, this army is going to be much larger than 3,000 points. But that's perfectly fine because it gives this army options that we can use in our studio. So yeah, I'm looking forward a lot to painting up these guys. It's going to be really, really cool. And as always, of course, I will make a cheap shot video on how to paint these guys, how we do it here in the studio, and save you guys possibly $100+ on doing that. I've already made cheap shot videos on my Skink Warriors as well as my Night Goblins, so I'll be putting those out shortly. That way you guys can learn how to save money on painting those guys up as well, because when I hear about the amount of money that people are spending on paint, it's just mind-boggling to me. Especially since, you know, cheap craft paint from Walmart and Hobby Lobby does exactly the same thing for like 1/10 of the price. But I digress. So yeah, that's the next unit I'm working on for the army. Alright you guys, so there you have it. This is the progress that we've made so far on our army, the Lizards of Waz, our studio's 3,000 point Lizardmen Army. It's slow going just because it's been kind of difficult to get to the painting table, but the progress is steady. It is slowly coming together, and I am loving the results so far. I remember when I was pitching this idea to some of my friends about how I was going to make this army out of both Orcs and Goblins as well as Lizardmen, and they thought I was crazy for trying to do it. But as you can see, it doesn't matter how mixed match it is. If you do an impressive job painting them up, it all looks gravy, no matter what it is. And besides, I am Commander Cheapskate, not Major Moneybags. So because of that, I don't care if it's cheap. I don't care if it's like cheesy. It looks awesome, and that's all that I care about. Alright, you guys, let's go do it for this one. As always, please feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe. Your guys' input is invaluable to us as always. Also, check us out on Facebook, Instagram, as well as blogger.com for all the latest, greatest hobby news related to our channel. That's going to do it for this week, guys. We'll catch you guys next one. Peace out and stay classy.